There's a lot of threats toward families and marriages. Divorce is one of those. Mm-hmm. How do you save a marriage from divorce?
Let's talk about it.
One of the popular definitions of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome.
Right.
We can't keep doing the same thing and expect that things are going to change. In a marriage, if you see some of the same patterns repeating over time, which you probably will, it probably suggests that it's time for you to change your view or change your do. It's up to you. Do you like that? I came up with that all by myself.
Fancy.
Change your view or change your do. It's up to you. The thing that needs to change typically starts with the way you're viewing it, mm-hmm. or what it is that you're doing in that relationship. Mm-hmm. Vicki, do you remember years ago, I went to a seminar by Dr. John Gottman, right, to learn more about relationships and how they work. He quoted some research. Actually, he did the research.
Yeah, he had a whole study.
Huge study where he found that roughly 70%, just wrap your head around that for a minute, 70% of all of the problems or conflicts in a marriage are unresolvable. Unresolvable.
I know, I remember thinking, that's really depressing to me.
I share that with some of my clients, and they're like, oh, well, what's the use? Right? And others are just relieved. They're like, oh, we're not so weird after all. There's a lot of reasons for that we won't get into on this particular
But let me give
video.
An example, because I didn't understand that. It blew my mind. But it's like things such as, you are a morning person. I am not.
Yeah.
31 years of marriage, that's still true. So that's kind of like a conflict in a way, but it's unresolvable. So tell what the research led to, the fact that...
Well, the interesting thing that really grabbed my attention from this particular research is that this is true. The 70% number mm-hmm. is true of miserable, highly conflicted, headed for divorce couples. Mm-hmm. It's also true of happy, well-adjusted, stable, satisfied couples. Yeah. No difference in the number of unresolvable problems that these two groups are having. You can't even distinguish between those two groups based on that metric.
Right, that one doesn't do it. So that goes back to your little saying about change your do.
Change your view or change your do,
right.
It's up to you.
Yeah.
Now, interesting that number is true of both of these groups. So obviously there's something about what the group in the miserable mm-hmm. side of the equation is doing versus what the successful, happy couples are doing. Did you remember, Vicki? I came home and I shared this research with you, and you summed it up beautifully. Do you know what I'm referring to there?
Yeah, it came from something I'd been listening to. It said basically you want to do more of what works and less of what doesn't. You know, when you're dating, you know what's working with the other person is you know the kinds of things that help them, that endear you to them and that make
right.
them happy. And you do lots of that when you're dating. And for some reason, sometimes when we get married, we kind of stop doing what works and we do more of what doesn't. And that is a road
right.
for misery.
Exactly. I remember when I interviewed Dino Pinder. He's from the Bahamas, mm-hmm. and he has this beautiful Caribbean way about him. It's like, no worries, man, right? And he's in this interview, he said, you know what? If people would do more of what it takes to get married, they would stay married.
Yeah. Yep.
It's just like what you said, do more of what works and less of what doesn't. Let's get really clear about what's on either side of that.
Okay.
Because if you're going to save a marriage from a divorce or anything else that could destroy a relationship, mm-hmm. you have to do more of what works and less of what doesn't.
So let's talk about what doesn't work first.
What doesn't work? Dr. Gottman identified 4 things. It's like a 4-part negative cascade.
Okay.
That sends us into that miserable side of the equation. He called it the 4 horsemen of the apocalypse. If you like that imagery. It starts with criticism. Mm-hmm. The criticism doesn't have to be real or intended. As long as it's perceived, it works. Mm-hmm. So consider that. Criticism leads to defensiveness.
Mm-hmm. As soon as I feel criticized, I put up my defenses.
It's a natural reaction. Mm-hmm. If you feel attacked, you're going to put up your shield. Right? The third step, contempt. Contempt is kind of like defensiveness turned hostile. So you got your shield up, now you draw your sword. Uh-huh. try to get some counterattacks in there. It usually sounds like, well, you, no. Right? Like we're still in junior high. And then the fourth one, stonewalling. Stonewalling is a word Gottman used to describe a more permanent form of defensiveness. It's like building up a stone wall, turning away from each other instead of turning toward each other.
Becoming isolated from one another.
Right. And when this is present in a relationship, it predicts that we're going to get a little farther apart, that there will be a separation. And he brags in his book that he can predict divorce with a high level of accuracy. Here's the thing that gives us some hope. And we didn't share this with you to alarm you, because probably this is going on in your relationship. It is in most.
But becoming aware is the first step.
Yes.
Right? So you want to become aware. Anytime you're feeling any of those emotions or reactions, just kind of track that.
Notice it.
Notice it and see what you can do to change it.
And Gottman pointed out, if you're not willing to change it, if this is the habitual way you deal with your conflicts and you're not willing to change it, it's statistically going to drive you apart. Okay? And that's why it's so predictive.
Right.
So what does work?
Okay, let's talk about it.
Principles, natural laws. There are 9 that I have found particularly powerful. In fact, I would be willing to guarantee them. In all of my years as a psychologist, I have never seen anything in a relationship, in a marriage, that couldn't be resolved with the proper application of these 9 principles.
With the caveat that you apply these principles to your own behavior.
Yes.
Because remember, this goes back to what do you control and what don't you control. You do not control your partner's behavior or the way they see things. So we got to go to what we do control. That's mine.
These 9 principles, thank you, Vicki, because these 9 principles are for personal use only. It's the only safe way to use these particular power tools.
Okay.
So without spending a lot of time on each one, here's the 9 principles. And if you want a deeper dive into them, there's other videos that we focus on different principles here. Number 1, positivity. Positivity. Okay, does that ever come up on our channel here? How you view things makes a difference. Remember, you can change your view, you can change your do, it's up to you. Positivity. The second one, common values. Get back to the why of this relationship. Why did you come together in the first place? You had some good reasons, didn't you?
Yeah, you want to return to those whenever you're in question.
This establishes a powerful common ground that will help you to get the hard stuff handled. And if you don't have a strong enough why, you're going to have a hard time with the how.
The next one is humility. You have to be willing to admit that you are wrong. That you are teachable.
Oh,
you can't
I don't
go
wanna be
anywhere with
wrong.
that. I know, it's so hard. But, that goes a long ways when I approach you in humility.
Absolutely. I like this definition, Vicki, that humility, in the sense that we're talking about it here, is giving up your need to be right in exchange for being open.
I remember hearing a saying, you can either be right or in a relationship. When you're constantly vying to be the one who's right, your relationships will suffer every time.
Brett Williams appeared on this channel with me. He's the author of a book called You Can Be Right or You Can Be Married, which is another twist on that.
Right.
Humility. Closely on its heels is the next principle, forgiveness. Forgiveness. Here's a definition that I've come to like about forgiveness. Forgiveness is giving up your demand for a better past.
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be great if we could let the past go? Sometimes our conflicts are about, well, you did this or that.
Right.
And bringing up the old history and not letting it go, not letting other people change because they can.
The next principle is respect. Now, we've talked so much about respecting ourselves and others and things, but the way that you interact with other people, you need to do it with a sense of respect. And I just can't stress often enough, we as humans are trained to read other human beings. We're professional at that. I mean, babies can read their mom and dad's faces. They can read emotions. So no matter if you think you are hiding your contempt or your feelings.
Probably
You
not.
probably aren't. It's either in the way you're saying something or the way you're not saying something. So you need to approach
Yes.
the relationship and the person with respect.
The language is only part of it. There's also body language. There's subtle micro expressions. There's an energy that we carry.
Right.
And you're right. You can tell, right? You can tell if people are faking it. They're like, oh, I really like you. Maybe it's more subtle,
than that.
than that. But you get what I'm talking about because you pick up on it and there's an energy about it.
Right.
The next one is love. Okay, sometimes people misunderstand this. They think that love means, oh, I have all of these fond feelings. Yeah, sometimes it means that. But love is so much more than a feeling. It's a choice. Well, you shared this with me recently. It's a declaration of intent.
Yeah, I like that. When you say I love you, it's not only telling them how you feel about them, but it is actually a declaration that I will always act in a way that has your back. I love you.
That's awesome. Yeah. It's a choice. And if there's only two choices, love or hate.
You're usually better served by the love. Always better served by the love.
Yes. Compassion. That's the next one. You know, the root of the word compassion, passion, is about suffering. And that surprises some people. But if you look at like the passion plays in Europe around Easter time, it's about the suffering of Christ in that particular context. Suffering. What are you willing to suffer for? Are you willing to sacrifice and suffer for this relationship? I think it also has something to do with kindness and compassion. And being able to put yourself in an empathic position to understand and care how someone else feels.
The next principle is work. You know, a lot of things can be solved if you get beside each other and work together for the common good. You know, I've seen a lot of conflicts in marriage where there is a misconception that you're working for different ends. And once you really come down and piece it out, you find out that you actually have the same goal. If you can get behind the same goal and work together towards it. But work really brings out a sweetness in a relationship that doesn't happen without it.
And default is down. This is true if you park your car on a hill and take off the brake. It's also true in a marriage. If you are not working on it, it's probably going to go down, not up. Elevation requires effort or work. That's why it's one of the principles. And then finally, wholesome recreational activities. And may I point out that this one includes 3 words. All 3 are important. The bulk of my practice is with a very conservative religious community, and sometimes they delete the middle word.
Recreation?
Yes. Wholesome activities. And I'm like, people, lighten up. Have some fun.
Yeah, you need to have fun together. And you know, when we go back to doing more of what got you along the path of being married, usually you had fun together.
Right.
You enjoyed each other's company, so do some fun things together.
And there are other people who delete the first word. I have been to Vegas. There are a lot of recreational activities you could engage in that are not helpful to your relationship. So let's use some discernment and judgment. Wholesome recreational activities. Vicki, you pointed out an insight about this word recreational, which contains within it something that suggests recreating.
Right.
Can you comment about that?
Well, I was listening to a specialist. She was a psychologist that really dealt with marriage, saving a marriage after infidelity. And one of the biggest things she said is most people, adult people, will have gone through 3 adult relationships in their lifetime. And you're thinking, what? I don't want to go through 3 marriages. And she said the trick is when certain things happen and marriage, you know, people change, things change, you recreate the marriage. You don't give up on the partner, but sometimes you put aside the marriage the way it was. You know, go back to that forgiveness and you recreate the marriage and you start a fresh new relationship with the same partner. So this is a way you can help save your marriage from divorce. Go ahead and recreate a new marriage with your partner.
Unfortunately, some of the mindset around this is almost disposable as it relates to a relationship or a marriage. And it might be easier to just get a divorce. It would be hard. It would require work and
Forgiveness,
compassion,
compassion.
to save that marriage and make it work. I've told some of my clients a similar thing, Vicki. I've said, you know what? You need a new marriage. Oh, keep your spouse, but get a new marriage. Recreate it in a way that's powerful, and you can save a marriage from divorce. We hope you found this helpful and that it can help you to save your marriage.
We have a lot of other resources that you might find helpful. Go and look on this channel under the playlist Positive Relationships.